Ukraine is getting help from Western trainers who've never fought the kind of brutal war they're preparing Ukrainian soldiers for. And somehow, against all odds, it's working. More than 56,000 Ukrainian troops have been trained by Western allies under the UK-led Operation Interflex since June 2022. These soldiers are learning skills to survive Europe's biggest land war since World War II from instructors who've never experienced anything like it themselves. The situation is almost surreal. Ukrainian troops arrive straight from the trenches, fresh from drone strikes and artillery bombardments, to be trained by Western instructors whose combat experience comes from completely different conflicts. Most NATO forces haven't fought a major war against a powerful, industrialized military in decades. Their experience is from counterinsurgency campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan, where they enjoyed air superiority against smaller, less equipped adversaries. Some trainers weren't even in those conflicts, having joined after they ended. The stakes couldn't be higher for Ukraine's survival.
Everything regarding Ukraine needs to be discussed with Ukraine. We have to be part of this conversation. First of all, it's ceasefire, security guarantees we need to know. By the way, President Trump has supported us today, and US is ready to support us. Second, Russia doesn't have any veto rights for Ukraine members in any alliances. Third are sanctions and increasing sanctions on Russia if they are not agreeing to ceasefire. I've told the American president and all of our Europeans region, Putin is bluffing. He is trying to push all over, he is pushing all over the front line. Russia is pretending they can occupy entire Ukraine, but this is not true. Also, he is saying that sanctions are not important and they are not working, but I am sure that sanctions are effective. They are harmful for Russian economy. Yes, this is true. Russia has more weapons, especially artillery, but also they have 3 times more losses in people. I have been talking to Trump, European colleagues, that Putin doesn't want peace. He wants to occupy our country, and we understand it. Putin cannot fool us. We need to pressure him.
As diplomatic negotiations continue in parallel with military operations, the quality of training these soldiers receive could determine whether Ukraine can maintain its defensive lines and protect its sovereignty. Colonel Boardman, commanding officer for Operation Interflex, acknowledges this unusual dynamic. He's well aware that his instructors may not have up-to-date combat experience of this type, but he doesn't see it as disqualifying. The institutional credibility and expertise they bring is genuinely valued by Ukraine's military, from top leadership all the way down to the soldiers going through training. The mix of Western warfighting doctrine and Ukrainian battlefield experience is producing tactics better than either side's knowledge alone. It's a fascinating fusion where NATO's systematic approach combines with Ukraine's hard-earned lessons from the front lines. This isn't your typical military training scenario. In most cases, experienced combat veterans train newcomers. Here we have Western military doctrine meeting Ukrainian battlefield reality in ways no one anticipated. The results speak for themselves. Recent polling shows that 90% of trainees who completed Interflex training since January 2025 feel more confident in their lethality and survivability. One of the most valued elements is battlefield first aid, with 93% of basic recruits saying they felt more confident treating casualties after training. But this success story has its complexities. The war Ukraine is fighting is unlike anything NATO has prepared for. Russia's relentless artillery fire, missile strikes, and widespread use of drones have reshaped the battlefield in ways NATO has not faced for generations. Ukraine is battling one of the world's largest militaries in a grinding, high-casualty war with no control of the skies. For years, Western militaries focused heavily on counterinsurgency skills, while maintaining theoretical capability for large-scale warfare. Now there's a renewed focus on combating a well-armed foe, and Ukraine is providing the real-world testing ground. The training has evolved constantly. Initially, it was basic 5-week infantry courses. Now it includes everything from combat medicine to urban warfare tactics, leadership training, and instructor courses. The program adapts continuously to Ukraine's changing needs on the battlefield. 13 nations have joined this effort alongside the UK, including Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Estonia, Kosovo, Romania, and Albania. Each brings their own expertise and perspective to the training programs. What makes this work is the unique combination of Western military science and Ukrainian battlefield experience. Western instructors bring systematic approaches, advanced equipment training, and institutional knowledge. Ukrainian soldiers bring immediate, visceral understanding of what actually works against Russian forces, without the air superiority that NATO doctrine typically assumes.
I think on actual substance, the Ukrainian and Russian positions are anywhere close. And in fact, I think that feeds into one of Putin's alternative strategies, which is this European insistence that before there are any negotiations, there has to be a ceasefire. I think this is a trap for Ukraine, assuming, and it's a big assumption, that the Europeans can continue to supply all the military assistance that Ukraine needs. I would say they should try and have negotiations without a ceasefire, without fixing the front lines as a new line of demarcation, and particularly not put a peacekeeping force in place. Because I think if they try that, you sit down for negotiations after a ceasefire, that ceasefire line becomes the new Russian-Ukrainian border, and 20% of Ukraine is going to be behind that ceasefire line. That's not a good look.
The training sites in the UK have become laboratories for 21st century warfare. They include reproductions of Russian trench systems as seen on Ukrainian battlefields. Trainees assault enemy positions under guidance from military trainers and translators, with blank rounds fired and smoke swirling through the air. Audio recordings play simulated screams of injured soldiers and civilian cries, adding disturbing layers of immersion. But there are gaps between training and reality. Some Ukrainian soldiers report that Western training doesn't fully prepare them for the specific challenges they face. The tactics they desperately need to learn, like effectively clearing trenches, understanding Russian booby traps, or navigating extensive minefields, aren't always part of the syllabus. Western instructors often have experience fighting in urban settings, while Ukrainian soldiers frequently operate on flat, open ground. The extensive minefields Russia has laid, some spanning several kilometers, weren't fully anticipated in training programs. NATO doctrine assumes massive advantages in equipment, munitions, and air power, provided by an overwhelming industrial base. Without those advantages, the doctrine needs adaptation. Ukraine has sometimes set aside Western fighting methods and reverted to tactics it knows best, especially when NATO-style combined arms warfare requires air superiority Ukraine doesn't have, yet the program continues to evolve and improve. The UK has committed to extending Operation Interflex throughout 2025, with additional funding of $247 million this year. The program has surpassed its original target of training 40,000 Ukrainian troops, reaching over 56,000 by mid-2025. The success isn't just in numbers, but in the feedback from the battlefield. Stories filter back of previously trained sections of 10 Ukrainian soldiers, pushing back Russian forces many times their number, testament to the training's effectiveness. The program has also created unexpected learning opportunities for Western militaries. Ukrainian soldiers bring experience of fighting a 21st century adversary that Western forces lack. They've adapted to warfare dominated by drones, extensive mining, and constant artillery pressure in ways that challenge traditional NATO thinking. The training relationship has become genuinely mutual. While Ukrainians learn Western military doctrine and equipment operation, Western instructors gain insights into modern warfare they couldn't get anywhere else. This exchange is reshaping how NATO thinks about future conflicts. The program faces resource constraints. Providing training to Ukrainian recruits has reduced availability of training facilities for the British Army. Army units bidding for training site time in 2023 were rejected 8 times more often than in 2019 because sites weren't available. more than a quarter of the Army's training estate is being used for Operation Interflex. But the strategic value is clear. As one Ukrainian general noted, the combination of Western institutional knowledge with Ukrainian battlefield adaptation creates something more powerful than either could achieve alone. The program represents a new model of military cooperation, not just providing weapons or funding, but creating hybrid approaches that combine different military cultures and experiences. Looking ahead, this unusual training partnership may reshape how militaries prepare for modern warfare. The lessons learned from combining Western doctrine with Ukrainian battlefield experience could influence military training programs worldwide. The success of Operation Interflex demonstrates that military expertise isn't just about having fought similar wars, but about adapting institutional knowledge to new realities. Sometimes the most effective training comes from unexpected combinations of experience and innovation. As Ukraine continues its fight for survival, these Western-trained soldiers carry with them a unique blend of NATO professionalism and Ukrainian resilience. They're proof that in warfare, as in many things, the most unlikely partnerships can produce the most remarkable results. The program continues to expand and evolve, with new countries joining and new training modules being developed. Each batch of trainees returns to Ukraine with skills that may mean the difference between victory and defeat, life and death. It's an experiment in military cooperation that's being written in real time, with stakes that couldn't be higher. The fusion of Western military science and Ukrainian battlefield wisdom continues to produce soldiers capable of standing against one of the world's most powerful militaries, trained by instructors who've never faced such an enemy themselves.